he was running at me and screaming at me.
And he even made a comment about your father while he was screaming at you, right?
Yes, he did.
And you testified that at the time that made you fear for your safety, right?
Yes, I was very scared. I'm small, and Professor Hamilton is a rather large male.
But Professor Hamilton was only emerging out of the building, right? He had not actually been able to approach your car at that point, right?
No, but he was proceeding to my car at a very, quick rate.
But despite the fact that made you fear for your safety, even though you were in the car and he was just emerging out of the building, right?
Yes, well, I decided to confront him. I was still a little afraid of my safety, but I figured it would be best to confront him rather than leave him upset.
Yeah, you felt that you had to protect yourself, you said, right?
Yes, to protect myself while I confronted him.
So, you did not have the limousine drive away that day, did you?
No, I did not.
You chose to stay and confront him?
Yes, I mean, part of being a political candidate is to confront people when you feel that they're wrong, and I just wanted to talk to him and try and work things out.
So you decided to confront him, and to confront him, you reached into the console of your car and you took out a gun, didn't you?
Yes, I did it for safety precautions. I wasn't actually going to use it. I was more going to confront him verbally.
These were the safety precautions you were taking in order to confront him, right?
Yes. He's a huge guy, and I was a little bit intimidated as a small girl.
So, by the way, this was a semi-automatic weapon, wasn't it?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance? Relevance?
We're going to the testimony of it was a bit of an overkill for her, going and feeling that she needed to have a semi-automatic loaded weapon and be able to approach somebody who hadn't actually approached her, hasn't physically threatened her whatsoever, and wasn't even approaching her car at that
I
point.
think it's just background information, so I'm going to allow it.
So you took this loaded semi-automatic weapon, and you took the safety off, didn't you?
Yes, I did. It wouldn't be very useful with a safety on.
And you emerged from your car to confront, as you said, Professor Hamilton.
Yes, I did.
Now, you never saw Professor Hamilton with a weapon, did you?
He did not have a weapon, but he had extremely large fists that he was holding in the air, screaming at me and running at me with. So I consider those weapons.
So you knew Professor Hamilton from the debate, correct?
Yes, I did.
And you knew that he was an anti-gun professor, right?
Yes, he was.
So when you pulled out this semi-automatic loaded weapon on this anti-gun professor, he didn't take a step back?
He did, and he calmed down a bit and looked more saddened. But I literally held it right here, not pointing and not trying to be, dangerous. I was just holding it to intimidate him.
You weren't trying to be dangerous holding a loaded semi-automatic weapon.
No,
To
I
another
wasn't.
man.
To a man with huge fists. No, I was not.
Who wasn't waving their fists at you, were they?
He was holding them in the air. So I don't know if he was waving them.
Perhaps to get your attention? You
I-
were leaving, weren't you?
I would assume that that's why he was doing it, to get my attention.
So then why were you afraid? If he was only trying to get your attention.
I was afraid because he was holding his fists in the air, running and screaming at me.
But didn't you just tell me that was to get his attention? You were getting in a vehicle that was already started, the driver was in the car, and you were about to leave. Did you ever consider that maybe he was leaving, trying to get your attention to speak to you?
Well, a wave looks more like this. He was more like this and screaming and red in the face. He looked a little angry.
Objection, Your Honor. These questions are asked and answered already.
It's cross-examination. I'm going to allow it.
So this anti-gun professor, as you said, didn't tell you that this was unnecessary for you to pull a gun out on him, did he?
I'm sorry, did you repeat the question?
The anti-gun professor didn't tell you that it was unnecessary for you to be holding a gun to him, did he?
No, I didn't have time to ask him. He was running at me, screaming.
And the anti-gun professor didn't seem afraid whatsoever. He didn't, tell you to calm down or anything like that?
No, I told him to calm down. I was actually the one afraid.
You told me that he wasn't frightened of this gun being put in his face. He was sad, correct? shots were fired from your gun, right?
Yes, this is true.
And that Hamilton was dead, right?
Yes, this is also true.
Now I'd like to talk about the events immediately following Professor Hamilton's death. After he had been shot, you were leaning over Professor Hamilton's body, right?
Yes, I was performing CPR trying to resuscitate him.
And at this point, members of the media flooded out of the Civic Center, right?
Yes, this is true.
And they saw you hovering over Hamilton's body, didn't they?
I believe so, yeah.
And at this point, you were nervous that they would connect you to his death, weren't you?
Yes, that's why I held a press conference, so they would know that I wasn't connected.
So you stepped away,
Yes, I did.
and despite the fact that you had just seen somebody supposedly commit suicide, you were able to answer all of their questions calmly and seriously, weren't you?
As best I could, I tried my best, and yes, that's true.
Now, there were several media outlets covering Professor Hamilton's death, now weren't there?
Yes, this is true.
And you told all of these media outlets that it was your gun that had caused Professor Hamilton's death, right?
Yes.
And you also told the media that you were there while he was shot, right?
Yes, this is true. Well, he shot himself.
But you said that you were there while this all happened, right?
Yes,
The media?
I witnessed his suicide.
And while the media was there, you went over to talk to the police, yes or no?
Yes, this is true.
And yes or no, Miss Walton, while the media was there viewing the scene, you left in a police car.
Yes, this is true.
Thank you, Miss Walton. No further questions at this time.
Redirect? Yes, Your Honor, briefly.